All right, so sorry about the ending of that last video. We just got started on this problem and my computer didn't cooperate. So we're going to go back to right where we are. Hopefully you watched the video right before this. If not, we'll catch you right up. We basically just found all of the possible rational zeros. So we found all the factors of our last term and divided them by all the factors of our first term. So we've got a few, and there's some fractions in here. Look, we've got some 1/3 and 5/3, all kinds of fun numbers. So we're just going to go ahead and try. We're trying to get our zero. We're trying to get remainder 0. So in the half box, I always start with 1. You can feel free to do the same or choose another number. It would be great. I'd love to see someone start with a fraction. Never had that before. All right, 3 will drop straight down. 3 times 1. -8 plus 3 is -5. It's going to give us a -38. This is definitely not going to give us a 0. So it is not +1. I'm just going to erase this and try again. In fact, I don't even erase the 1. I'm just going to put a negative in front of it and try a -1. So 3 is going to drop straight down. Multiply it by the -3. -11 times -1 is +11. -22, +22, that goes to 12. That is not a 0 either. We're going to just cross out 1. That means 1 is not a 0. Now, if you would like to, you are more than welcome to try this 1/3. I'm not going to. I'm going to go on to my next number. 2 is a pretty easy number to multiply. You just double everything. So I'm going to try 2. So 3 drops straight down, times 2 is 6. -8 plus 6 is -2, goes to -4. That's what, -37. Is this going to give me a 0? -74, -84, no 0. Goodness, 7 times we have to try a few of these. So there's no 0 there. Before I change the number, I'm just going to try -2. I know it's not the +2. Let's try the -2. 3 times -2 is -6. Then I have a -14 times 2 is +28. Look at this, -33 plus 28, -5 times -2 is +10. I have remainder 0. Yay, -2 is a 0. All right, let's factor this further though. So we're going to write this in factored form. So we're going to write f of x is equal to, if -2 is the 0, then x plus 2 is the linear factor. Okay, remember, if -2 gets put in for x, you should get a 0 right there. All right, then this 3, if you'll remember, 3 is going to represent our x to the second power. This 14 is just x, and then that 5. So, 3x squared minus 14x minus 5. Again, once you get it to a quadratic, factor from then, especially on this one, because you'd have to guess a fraction, will be one of the answers. But let's show you how to do this one. This is your guess and check factoring. Notice right here, you've got a leading coefficient. So your first terms right here have to multiply to not only x squared, but they've got to multiply to 3 as well. Now, 3 is a nice one because 3, there's only one way to multiply numbers together and get 3. It has to be just a 3 and a 1. 3x and a 1x right there. So only way to get 3. Same thing with their last numbers. They have to multiply to 5. There's only one way to multiply numbers together to get 5. It is 1 times 5. If I put the 1 there and the 5 there, notice when I check this, my 3x times my 5 gives me my 15x. That's really close. I could have a -15x. Oops. That's not 15. It's supposed to be 5. This computer is, let's see, hold on. There we go. All right. So we've got a -15x and a +1x now, and that will combine to my -14x. So now notice this lovely polynomial is written in factored form. We have all plain x's, no more x squareds, no more x to the thirds. They're x plus 2, 3x plus 1, and x minus 5. So we can now go through and tell tell our zeros. This is just saying if we take this factor and set it equal to 0, then x would be -2. Right here, do the same thing. Remember, you're going to have to subtract 1 and then divide by 3. So you got a -1/3 and then a +5. So those are your 3 zeros right there. And you are done with that. All right, so I was going to do these next 3 examples in one video, but I think since my video cut off, we'll try one more in this video, and then we'll do the last 2 in their own video, just so that it doesn't get too long. All right, so x to the 4th is really not too much different, especially for this one, because you can still factor it after we find 1 0. So we're just trying to find 1 0. So all of my factors of 18, because they're all divided by 1, I've got 1 plus or minus 2 plus or minus 3 plus or minus 6 plus or minus 9 and plus or minus 18. So possible rational zeros there. So we just try. Again, if you want to stick with some number other than 1, that's fine. I'm kind of boring here. But we're going to just put all the leading coefficients. There's a 1, there's a 3, -7, -27, and -18. All right, 1 drops straight down. 1 times 1 is 1, plus 3 is 4, 4 times 1 is 4, -7 is -3, -30, -30. Is this going to give us a 0? Sometimes you don't even have to finish them. If you just see that that's getting farther and farther and farther away from 0, just go back and try a different number. Let's try a -1. So 1 times -1 is -1. 3 minus 1 is 2. Times -1 is -2. -9 goes to +9. -27 plus 9 is -18. When I multiply that by -1, though, I get, oh, look at this, a +18, which gives me my 0, just what I wanted. All right, so when I rewrite this, I can rewrite this as my, in factored form, remember? So if -1 is my 0, my factor is going to be x plus 1 right there. And then notice right here, since I started with the 4th power, this 1 this time represents x to the 3rd power. And then 2x squared minus 9x minus 18. So that's going to go in the lovely parentheses here. We've got an x to the 3rd plus 2x squared minus 9x minus 18 right there. And we're going to try to factor. Now, this one incidentally does factor. These 2 down here that we're going to try in our next video do not factor. So we'll put them in their own video. But right here, I can factor this. If you remember back from 7-1, lesson 7-1, if we have a 4-term polynomial, the method is called factor by grouping. So we're just going to group these first 2 together, say, oh, look, there's an x squared. Well, there's more than that, but there's an x squared in both of them. So we're going to factor out an x squared. X squared times x gives me my x to the 3rd, and x squared times plus 2 will give me that plus 2x squared. Okay, do the same thing over here. Factor your greatest common factor. We're going to factor out a negative with that 9. -9 times x will give me -9x, and -9 times a +2 will give me that -18. Now, notice we did this on purpose. We want these binomials right here to be the exact same thing. That way we can write this special. We can actually write it as 2 binomials. One of them is just this x plus 2. So one of them is the binomial that they share, and then you're going to put the greatest common factors from both of them out front. Okay, remember this means the same thing. If you have a binomial multiplied to a binomial, this x squared multiplies to both, then the -9 multiplies to both. That's what happened up here. That x squared multiplied to both, and the -9 multiplied to both. So it's just a nice fancy way to write this. We still have this x plus 1 that was out here as well. Now, we're not quite done. We're doing so great with the factoring, but if you'll notice right here, we still have a square. We like to get it to where all of the x's are just x to the 1st, x to the 1st, x to the 1st. So luckily, this one is your teacher's favorite polynomial to factor. It is a difference of squares. See my difference sign? They told me x is a square. I know that 9 is a square. So they're going to have us factor this as conjugates. That means they've got to be different operations inside. We've got a plus and a subtract. Okay, then we're just going to take the square root of the first, put it in the first place there, and the square root of 9, put it in the last place there. And then this lovely factor x plus 2 gets to stay. And this is our polynomial written in factored form, which we love it in factored form because now it's easy to see our zeros. We've got a -1 could be a 0, a -3, a +3, and a -2. That is actually what we want to write down as our answer. All right, so there was your first x to the 4th polynomial that you factored without them even giving you a hint. We'll try 2 more in our next video.